Good morning and welcome to Roosevelt House. My name is Jessica Dewworth. I'm the Rita E. Hauser Director of the Human Rights Program here. And we are very pleased this morning to be partnering with the Women's Forum on Afghanistan, an initiative led by Afghan women that got its start here at Roosevelt House with the first meeting of Afghan and global women leaders in September 2021, soon after the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan. It's an honor to host this press briefing for Richard Bennett, the UN Special Rapporteur for Human Rights in Afghanistan, who's in New York for an interactive dialogue with the Third Committee of the UN General Assembly, which happened yesterday, and is also just back from Afghanistan with the latest updates from his mission. Our goal today is to bring the human rights situation and the voices of Afghan women to greater public attention. 1 year ago, this was in the headlines, and these days it seems to have all but disappeared, although the situation has gotten worse. For this reason, special thanks to all joining us today in person and on Zoom. In addition to Richard, we are very pleased to have two prominent Afghan women leaders with us from the steering committee of the Women's Forum on Afghanistan, Habiba Sarabi, the former Minister for Women's Affairs, and also the first woman to serve in Afghanistan as a governor of Bamiyan Province. Also with us is Asila, Wardak, a former diplomat who served as Director General of UN Affairs in the Afghan Foreign Ministry. And we are also joined via Zoom by Mahbouba Siraj, a longtime and well-known women's rights activist who's joining us from Kabul. So let's begin with Richard Bennett. Welcome.
Thank you, Jessica, and thanks very much to the Women's Forum on Afghanistan and Roosevelt House for organizing this media briefing this morning. It's really my honor to join a panel of Afghan women leaders, and I'm especially pleased that we're joined by Mahbouba Siraj from Afghanistan directly, and I understand we will also be seeing and hearing from a couple of other Afghan women on video. As Jessica mentioned, I returned from Afghanistan a few days ago, and yesterday I briefed the Third Committee of the GA. Today, I would like to speak very briefly because I believe that my role is to facilitate and amplify the voices of Afghans, and especially Afghan. While not forgetting the many Afghan men who are also standing up for human rights and for the rights of Afghan women. I'm not going to hide my admiration for Afghan women. They're organized, articulate, determined, courageous, and they're fighting for women's rights, but actually they're fighting for all human rights in Afghanistan. And my recommendation is please listen to them. As Jessica mentioned, Afghanistan was in the headlines a year ago. I'm afraid it has slipped for various reasons. And my aim is to try and help put Afghanistan back in the headlines because the situation remains extremely serious and is continuing to deteriorate in many respects. Perhaps one positive element is that since I was appointed and got started on May 1st, I've been able to travel to Afghanistan twice. This is actually not always the case with special rapporteurs. So I do appreciate the willingness of the de facto authorities to receive me. I managed to have meetings with them at high levels, including Deputy Prime Minister, in fact, two Deputy Prime Ministers, Minister of Foreign Affairs, other ministers. They invited me to go wherever I wished in the country. And as they said, to see with my own eyes what the situation is, rather than receive secondhand information. In return, they asked me to be impartial, which I always am, and accurate, which I always am to the best of my knowledge. and to report fairly. And that is my commitment. This time, I was able to go to Bamiyan province and also to Panjshir province briefly. I chose these because I think they're critical areas of Afghanistan. And in my previous visit, I had already visited Kandahar and also Balkh. I hope that I'll be able to return. My mandate was recently renewed in the Human Rights Council. My next report will be to the next session of the Human Rights Council in Geneva at the end of February. And then I'm also invited to report again in June. And the June report is specially requested by the Human Rights Council to be on the rights of women and girls. And I'll be doing that jointly with the UN Working Group on discrimination against women and girls and other relevant special procedures. So I'm hoping that we will be able to do the research for those reports soon. I'll just touch very, very quickly on some of the key issues. They're set out in my report. They're also in my statement that I made yesterday to the third committee. I don't want to elaborate on them, but I'm happy to answer questions if you have any. First, of course, and foremost, is the abysmal situation of women and girls in Afghanistan, which I think is well known. And I'm sure others on the panel will discuss this as well. The second point I want to make is about the discrimination, persecution, attacks on minorities, in particular Hazara, but other groups as well. As some may know, Sufi, Sikhs, Hindus, and others are also under pressure in an environment which is far less than inclusive. Press freedom continues to shrink, as does civic space. And human rights defenders are under threat and find it extremely difficult to keep going in Afghanistan. And I pay tribute to those who are managing to do so. There's a great deal of ongoing violence in different respects. You may be aware that there is armed conflict in Panjshir province and other provinces in the north. Once again, I'd use this opportunity to urge all parties to respect international humanitarian law and international human rights law. There's also a lack of compliance with the amnesty that the Taliban announced last year in September. There are disturbing reports of disappearances, executions, torture of former members of the Afghan security forces and even other civil servants. I'm also concerned about some of the fear tactics, I'll call it, of particular agencies, in particular especially the intelligence and the Ministry for the Propagation of Virtue and Prevention of Vice. Couple of other issues I'll mention, and then I will stop. We should not forget. In fact, it should be very much in the front of our minds, the dire humanitarian situation in Afghanistan, especially with the winter coming up. I have not met in my travels and work around the world a more resilient people than Afghans. They will use all their resources to survive. But poverty is terrible. Malnutrition is getting worse. And this issue also needs to be tackled, and humanitarian aid, though needed, is insufficient. There must be further attempts to stimulate the economy
We can go into that more later if you wish. The rule of law is another area, or access to justice is another area that is unclear, appears to be somewhat chaotic, and requires further analysis and attention. It is, of course, at the root of all human rights. And of course, we are aware that many institutions of accountability were either swept away, like the Afghan Independent Human Rights Commission, or have been changed in such a way that it causes concern for the respect for human rights, including the court system. And finally, to end on the issue of lack of accountability. I think there are many aspects to this. Perhaps the first one that we tend to hit us in the face really is the way in which violence is not held accountable, especially through a judicial system. But I would add to that that accountability in any system of governance requires institutions that are capable of holding the state to account and are capable of receiving complaints from individuals without fear and investigating those complaints impartially and thoroughly. So certainly there needs to be much more action as well as thought given to the question of accountability. Afghanistan is clearly a country that is terribly damaged by more than 4 decades of conflict. That legacy is sometimes underrated, in my view. The damage done did not start on the 15th of August, 2021. Sometimes that gets forgotten. And I think that any approach to accountability, or indeed to transitional justice, needs to reflect on the past as well as the present in order to move to a better future. Thank you very much, Jess.
Thank you, Richard. Let me give the floor now to Asila Wardak.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Richard Bennett for a briefing yesterday at the General Assembly. It was really rich in comprehensive reports inside Afghanistan, because unfortunately we don't have direct access to provinces and to especially to the victims. But he put himself in danger and then traveled all the way to Bamiyan, to Balkh, to a different part of Afghanistan, and then spoke with the victims of war and women's and minority group and everybody. Mr. Richard has a very tough mandate, and I wish him to be more patient, and then more power to him. And I think he may need also more resources and more stuff, because people are expecting a lot from him in Afghanistan. We are daily in contact with women and girls, and then with different groups. So everybody would like to meet Richard Bennett. Yeah, and then at least to share their stories, to raise. And then he is the one that amplifying the voice, and then kind of bridge between Afghan people and international community. Unfortunately, Taliban, they are claiming that they brought security to the country. But the last incident in early October, the incident against the Koch Education Center, showed that Taliban, they failed to protect civilians. They failed to protect girls. That attack was not a simple, normal attack. That was the attack against the humanity, against the human rights, against the education, and against the girls. We lost 54, and then a big damage. A big number of girls, they are still in the hospital, and then they really need serious attention, medical treatment and everything. So that was on the security part. And unfortunately, Afghanistan is also forgotten. You see that in the past month, there were lots of meetings in the UN, but Afghanistan was not in the agenda of any meetings, unfortunately. The international community, they have responsibility. It's not only one man show that we should talk. And sometimes we are also thinking, we women activists, from morning we are starting talking to media, talking to people, knocking every door for help and then for assistance. I personally, I'm thinking that maybe we failed in terms of our strategy or policy or advocacy, but thinking that no, it's a joint failure. International community also failed. It's not only our failure, because it's, as I said, that it's joint failure. And they cannot ignore us, because in terms of Ukraine, it's only a sympathy. It's a sympathy, especially on the, I'm calling on our colleagues in the US administration, in terms of, again, I'm repeating, in terms of Ukraine, it's a sympathy, but in Afghanistan is a responsibility for it. Doha agreement was a failure, unfortunately, from the beginning. So we have to admit these things, that they cannot ignore us. And then we keep fighting for our rights. And we will push, we will not fed up. It's a very difficult situation. It's a very difficult moment. For today is the 402nd day that the girls, they banned from going to school. There is, unfortunately, there is no changes in their attitude and their actions. Taliban, they are promising empty promises, but there is no any changes. In 14 months, can someone tell me there is changes in their behavior or attitude or actions? Nothing. A small example is the girls' education. Mariam, 11 years old, she is my cousin in Kabul. The other day I was talking to her and was asking about her school and then studies. She was saying that, Asila, I'm praying to God to fail this year, because if we pass to 7th grade and then 12 years, then Taliban is banning me going to school. So I really would like to stay for another year also at the 6th grade. This is very sad. And then I know no one can feel our pain. It's very difficult situation. But again, I'm saying that this is shared responsibility. UN and international community, they have the leverage, political leverage, economical leverage. They can pressurize Taliban. They have to start from some point. We lost the country, we lost our identity, we lost our dignity. The number of refugees that they are going in the border of Iran and Pakistan, we lost our dignities. It's not easy, we are knocking every door. And those people that they are also in exile, we don't have anything. We don't have legal documents, we don't have anything. People cannot travel. Taliban, they have the leverage, they travel, but we cannot travel, we cannot go anywhere. Inside Afghanistan also, freedom of movement, it's banned, and outside we are in exile also, we cannot go outside of the country. So these are the things that, in terms of humanitarian assistance, as Mr. Richard said, that we will be having a harsh winter, and still a big number of people, they are in need, because there is no source of job, there is nothing, especially women and minority groups and people with disabilities, they totally ignored. And I would like to request the international community to give more chance to those people to be to get assistance from humanitarian head, because Taliban, since 1 month, they start collecting all these beggars, especially women beggars, that they are not allowed to beg on the street. But unfortunately, they are not thinking that why we should not provide a long-term sources for these women, why they are begging on the streets. So they promised that we are going to pay $2,000 per month to every beggar woman to stay home, and then they are not allowed because this is against Islam. But someone should ask them that why these people are on the street. You should provide them with meaning of job opportunities. They should work, and then we have brave women that in the past they were working everywhere. Even they were eager to broom to clean the streets. But unfortunately now they took everything. They deprived from their rights. As I said about the refugee crisis, a big number of Afghans, they are leaving the country because of the girls' education, because they want to, those that at least economically, if they are a little stable, they would like to go to Iran or to Pakistan or to neighborhood to provide opportunity for their daughters to go to schools. That's also another trauma and very much difficulties, that they are leaving the country only because to let their girls to go to school. And last point, yeah, about amnesty that Mr. Richard also said, I would like to also emphasize that Taliban, they announced the amnesty, and a big number of ex-government employees, they went back to Kabul. They were thinking that it's amnesty, but unfortunately there was no amnesty. They start killing them, arresting them, and kidnapping them. And a big number of people, they disappeared from Kabul, but no one has access. ICRC has no access, UNAMA has no access to them. And my last point to the international community is, again, it's a joint responsibility. They started the war. They have to put an end to this ongoing war. And then we really fed up. 42 years, 43 years. Me, when I was very young, I'm a generation of war. I didn't see anything in my life except fighting, but we are also human being at the end of the day. I really also would like to enjoy my life. But I'm thinking about the teenagers, that what will be happening to them. As I said, 14 months, time is flying, but no one is paying attention. And I'm warning the international community because the big number of fighters, international fighters with criminal backgrounds, they are in Afghanistan. And then if they are not going to put an end to this ongoing war, this war and this fire soon will reach to the neighbor and then to the region. And of course, it will affect the entire world. They must stop. And I'm calling also on Afghans that the war is not the solution. We have to bring a political settlement, and then we have to sit. We have to leave aside all our differences and ideologies that we have, and then we have to sit in a table and then think as an Afghan to bring peace and stability to the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for those powerful words and that important reminder of the responsibility of the international community and the United States in particular. Now I want to give the floor to Habiba Sarabi. Again, Habiba was a former Minister for Women's Affairs in Afghanistan and Governor of Bamiyan Province. Habiba.
Let me to echo with my sister Asila to thanks Richard Bennett for the very comprehensive report that you provided in Afghanistan. It is not easy task. It's really, you are taking risk in going to different part of Afghanistan and bringing or making the first-hand report, which is very important, first-hand report, because sometimes it's very difficult to get the report, especially, for example, I can give you one example. So there are news from Afghanistan that the girls that they were attending for demonstration for genocide, stop genocide, Hazara genocide, they are dismissed from university and from dorm in Kabul, but they don't have any document on that because the Taliban took their ID card and also the card that they can enter to dorm. Both of them, and even didn't give any letter to them. So this is something that it's difficult to find. So we are hearing every day, for example, you were talking about amnesty. So there are so many women that they were enrolled in police and army in Afghanistan, especially Hazara people, Hazara women, they were a part of the police, but today they are arresting and punishing and kidnapping. So this is, many people cannot bring the document for that. This documentation is very, very important and it's very crucial. the UN Security Council should make a decision and take action to send a mission to document all these issues. So the same with this forced displacement of people from one part of the country, for example, maybe from north of the country and also from Beirut and some other area. The people are dying every day. So this is something that my sister also mentioned about that. I want to, of course, your report and your comprehensive report was showing in your mission is very clear. And you call upon to all the global leaders to take action. We are talking a lot. Within this more than 1 year, we talked a lot, but this is the time for action. As my sister said, this is our giant failure, and so we have to take responsibility. Of course, we paid the price. We paid the price. Afghan people are paying the price, but this is something that we had. The international community should take action for that, not talking a lot. Last week, it was, a global demonstration for Stop Hazara Genocide. So the blood that every day is coming from the people. So every other week, at least, there will be an attack. So from one of the report that I've got from media, that within the Taliban period or the Taliban power, 18 attacks have been attacked, or 18 events attacked, or 18 term Taliban attack to Hazara community, and 222 people were died. It's of course, giving the number is sometimes it's very difficult, because sometimes getting evidence is difficult, and that's why at least they are the people. They are not only the number. They are the people that they are losing their life. Yesterday, Mr. Bennett was sharing the report and briefing to General Assembly, and of course the death of the Koch Center, about 51 young women died on that. So this 51 women had the dream to have better life, to serve the people, to serve for the family, but they did. Now they cannot, they are died. So this is, you can imagine all these miserable issues in Afghanistan. So that's why I again want to call upon that please take action for that. And also I want to call upon to the Western media, why they are silent about all the problem or the miserable issue or happening in Afghanistan. The international media, especially Western media, are silent for that. This is Afghan people also has the blood, the color of blood. Their blood is also red. It's not white. So this is always, we are, of course, we have sympathy and solidarity with our any human violation that happening, for example, in Iran or Ukraine. But these people also, they are victim of all these power conflict or superpower competition. Please take action for the people of Afghanistan. Thank you.
Thank you, Habiba. And I just would like to echo her plea to the media, to all of you, to really help us amplify this call to action. Now, hopefully still online with us, we have Mahbouba Siraj from Kabul. I see you. Can you hear me, Mahbouba? Welcome.
Yeah, I can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. It's evening in Kabul. I know it's morning to you. Hello, Mr. Bennett. Hello, Asila John. Hello, Khanum Sarabi. Hello, everybody. I listened to, actually, I've seen Mr. Bennett in Kabul, and I did talk to him. And I'm hearing, the problems and the human rights violations in Afghanistan and what's going on. And it has become like such a, how shall I say, a very sad, broken record. I'm sorry to say, because we keep on saying it and the world listens to it. I know they're listening, but there's nothing being done about it. So here we are, repeating again and repeating again and repeating again. So where are we going to get? But to me, that is the main question. Where are we going to get? How far? How much more? How much more Hazaras have to die in Afghanistan? How many more of all of these people that they were in the government or in the army before they have to die? How much the women of Afghanistan should be completely wiped off the face of society, like the way we are right now? How much of all of this? How much poverty? How many kids can't go to school? Our girls can't go to school. Our boys, they have the worst kind of education. I don't think they have a curriculum that is really working for anybody. It's not. So I don't know how far we are going to go like this. To me, I've become to the point where I don't believe that asking the international community to do something for us is going to be really the answer. I think we have to turn the whole thing to ourselves, to the people of Afghanistan. Let's see what we can do with that. My point is that we really have to start from somewhere else, because wherever we are going, whatever we are trying to do so far is not working. And I don't want the world to tell me that it is, because it is not. And you all know that. I mean, Mr. Bennett is putting, his life and his whole reputation into this whole thing, and he works so hard, and I know that. And the whole people are with it, But what can he do? Because if the Taliban decide that they don't like what he says, they're going to stop him from coming to Afghanistan. Then what? Then what are we going to do? Then what is he going to witness? Nothing. So we really have to do something about this ourselves. And that's where I want to put my whole concentration at this point. Because asking the world did not get us anywhere. Right now, there's going to be wars starting in Afghanistan amongst ourselves. There was civil war in Afghanistan. Can you imagine at this time? Where is that going to get us? But then if the second when you mention this question, or okay, let's do something, everybody is going to they get up in arms and they say, well, no, don't say anything, don't talk like that. That's not right. We are trying to do this and that, and at the end of the day, nothing happens. The joint responsibility, I like that, but there is no such a thing as a joint responsibility. There is not. The fact that we are still counting the days of the schools, that there's not happening, we still are doing that. Today has been really 402nd day of no school for the girls. And I just, I'm like, it's making me extremely sad. I am so sorry that I really don't have a whole lot to say, but everything that my sister said, everything that Mr. Bennett gave as a report, and to tell you the honest truth, I don't have anything new to tell you. But the fact that I know just a few days ago, there was this, apparently they went to the places where the girls are studying, and they were in the courses, classes they are taking women, the young girls that they are wearing. I mean, when we get to this point, it's just like, I'm sorry, I really don't have anything anymore to say. What am I supposed to say? They're lifting your skirt to find out whether you're wearing pants underneath it. What are we supposed to be wearing underneath anyways? So it's like the weirdest things. And the pants, I'm sure they mean jeans, that some of these women, the girls, are wearing jeans underneath their long coats. So whatever they're wearing underneath, it shouldn't be a question. And I did complain about this, and I tried to send the complaint to the places where I think is going to get to the authorities and to see what they can do about it. But these are the things that we are dealing with. And when Mr. Bennett went to Panjshir, there was a whole lot of problems that came out from Panjshir, that people said that he did not really talk to the people that were actually affected by everything in Panjshir. So and that is also, no matter what he does, I don't think it's going to be to anybody's satisfaction, because there's going to be a part of the story, some kind of a story, that is not going to be mentioned. And that is going to be, what is really hurting us. And then, so the only hope that right now we have is really UNAMA, for them to do what they have to do. And hopefully they take the responsibility very seriously. And then the rest is for us as the people of Afghanistan, that we have to come up with some kind of a suggestion of coming up with something that will help and that will have some effect on the decisions of the de facto government. Otherwise, this is not going to be a winning game. This is going to be a repetition, and this is going to be where we are, and that means nowhere. At the end, I just wish things were different, but I'm sorry they are not. Thank you, Mr. Bennett, for all your work. I really appreciate what you're doing, sir. And you're doing it with such a good heart and with so much, putting everything that you have. And I wish you luck, sir, but I know there's not much to say, because in reality, nothing is really happening. Good to see you, sisters. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mahbouba. Thank you. And hopefully you can stay with us for more discussion and questions. I think the most important thing you said for me is whatever we're doing, it's not working. So we have to look at what are we not doing? What more could we be doing? What could we be doing differently? And we just have to not give up hope. Let me now, before we open for questions, we have several video messages that we want to share with you from women in Panjshir just over the last couple of days. And then we will open for questions. For anyone online, please type your questions in the Q&A, include your name and the media outlet that you are representing. Thank you. Let's see the video.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. سلام خدمت اعضای نشست سازمان ملل متحد. یک تن از باشندگان ولایت پنجشیر هستم. میخواهم در قسمت وضعیت حقوق بشری و جرایم جنگی طالبان در پنجشیر صحبت نمایم. طالبان پس از آن که حمله نظامی در پنجشیر نمودند، بدون تفکیک افراد ملکی و نظامی دست به کشتار جمعی مردم ملکی زدند و مردم در این قسمت اسناد و شواهد زیادی وجود دارد. همچنان مکاتب و خانه‌های محلات مردم، شخصی مردم را پایگاه نظامی خود قرار دادند و مردم را مجبورن از خانه‌های خود کشیده و کوچ دادند و بچه‌های مردم را به جرم دست داشتن به جبهه مقاومت، ریش‌سفیدان و جوانان را از خانه‌ها کشیده و به قتل می‌رسانند و مکاتب، خانه‌های مسکونی مردم را پایگاه نظامی خود قرار دادند و همچنان مردم در پنجشیر بسیار وحشت با وجود طالبان بسیار وحشت زیادی به وجود آمده که مردم از ترس به کشت زراعت خود هیچ بیرون نمی‌برند از خانه، نه شب نه روز. خیلی مردم بسیار به آزار اذیت زیادی از طرف گروه طالبان قرار می‌گیرند و همچنان جوانان ریش‌سفیدان را با اتهام دست داشتن به جبهه مقاومت گرفتار می‌نمایند و اسرای جنگی که از طریق از جبهه مقاومت گرفتار می‌کنن، اونها را دستایشان از پشت سر بسته و بالایشان فیر میکنن و بسیار به بیرحمانه از بین میبرندشان و در این اواخر یک تظاهرات از طرف زنان قهرمان با شهامت پنشیر به وقوع پیوست که در قسمت ولسوالی پریان این تظاهرات شروع شد که قسم قضیه از این قرار بود که یک نظامی پیشینه که در نظام پیشی بود آنها را میخواستند که از بین ببرند و خانم‌های شهامت با وجود آوردن که اجازه ندادن افراد از بین ببرند. وضعیت در پنشیر خیلی نگران کننده است. رسانه های وجود نداره، تلفن ها را چک میکنن، مردم بسیار مورد آزار اذیت قرار میدهند.
و رحمت الله و برکاته. از ولایت پنشیر هستم. سر ما بسیار ظلم است. یعنی مال ماجر آمدیم خونه گکای ما رو به زور گرفته. بچه 15 سالم شهید شد. دیگه بچه مامای ما کشتن، مغزاش پیش روی خود ما باد شد. در خانه رفتن یعنی مال نمیمونن و ما نمیجا آمدیم غیر سر یعنی پنشیری ظلم و ستم. بچه های ما این مال در کار نیست. پس ماندهش یعنی میجا 4 تا یعنی میجا روده گوشنه میگردن. کس در قصه ما نیست. دیگه سر ظلم بسیار تجاوز میکنن. از ترس داخل کشیدن نمیتونن. سر دخترها سر زنا میبرن سر بچه ها. اینطوری گپا از چی کنیم؟ از ترس نمیتونیم گفته. این میان میگن چوب باشی از ترس چوب هستیم. از شام تا بعد از شام بیرون برآمدن نمیمونن. ما بسیار ظلم و ستم از سر ما دیگه. پیش چشم خود ما دیدن مال کشیدن ما از خانه آمدیم ماجر آمدیم دیگه. ایران موندیم چی کنیم؟
Okay, thank you. Let me open the floor for questions. Any questions? We'll pass one mic around. Sorry for that.
Hi, Barney Rubin. I hesitate to ask this like a policy question after those very moving testimonies, because no answer that you can give to my question is an adequate response to those things. But it happens that in a couple of weeks, I'm going to go to an international conference and I'm supposed to speak on a panel about how to deliver humanitarian assistance to Afghanistan without strengthening the Taliban government. So I have to say something. And let me just say, you could say, there's different options. No, don't give humanitarian assistance. Well, no one says that. Give it entirely through institutions that are the UN, international institutions outside the government. But the fact is, the Taliban control the situation on the ground, and you can't even move around without talking to the Taliban. Second is that the people just don't just need charity; they need work. They need an economy, which means that they need a currency. They will need the central bank to work somehow. They will need conditions for investment. So my question is just, what should I say? What would you like me to say on this panel when they ask me these questions?
Okay, we'll take a couple of questions and then we'll come back to the panel. One question online for Richard Bennett. How did you find the situation of human rights compared to your first visit earlier this year? And also a question for Habiba, Sarabi, and Asila Wardak. What would you like the international community to take to hold the Taliban accountable for their human rights violations? What action would you like the international community to take? And Nina.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Nina Lahoud, I'm on the advisory board of Pass Blue and a 33-year UN official before. Everyone acknowledges that the most poignant and powerful words come from the women themselves. And while there's a lot of cynicism regarding what the Security Council can do, I feel that in terms of advocacy, it's really important to rethink that. And just a couple proposals that I mentioned before as regards women in other conflict affected areas. One is the typical briefing to a Security Council after the Secretary General submits a report is maybe to have one civil society representative. I think it's time, given the dire situation for over a year, that a formal letter be written from the women to the Secretary General asking for one meeting on the record, not area formula where there is no written record, institutional record, but a meeting on the record where only the briefers are women. We don't need to be briefed on what the Secretary General's report says. Everyone can read it. So that's number one. And number two, given the number of women permanent representatives or ambassadors on the Security Council, I am perplexed as to why, since the Security Council regularly chooses areas to visit as official visits, they issue an official mission report when they go to a country to visit. A second request, I think, should be for an all-female visit from the Security Council, including the permanent representatives who are women, accompanied by whomever, Deputy Secretary General, or even the Secretary General himself, to go to Afghanistan and have that mission report issued on the record. So those are just two things. I know there's cynicism, but I think it's important not to let the Security Council off the hook. Richard briefs the General Assembly. Special rapporteurs are the most powerful, but the problem is it's not directly often to the Security Council. And those are just two suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me read another question from a Zoom participant. For Richard, at the start of your work as Special Rapporteur, you said you were committed to amplifying the voices of Afghan women, men, and children. After traveling to Afghanistan and nearly a year has passed, do you think there is a way to hold the Taliban accountable? Dulcie?
Thanks very much. I'm Dulcie Leinbach, editor of Past Blue. We're a women-led nonprofit media site that covers the UN. And Nina's a board member, a great board member. Richard, I just wanted to ask you, I thought it was sort of curious that the Taliban gave you freedom of movement throughout the country. What do you think their motive was? Because obviously you saw things that were pretty unsavory. So I'm just curious where this sort of contradiction, how it played out and what you told them and what they said. Thanks.
Okay, well, maybe we'll just stop there for now and go in the same order we did earlier. Richard, would you like to begin?
Thanks, Jessica, and thanks for the questions. Barney, with your question, I think that it would be great if the women could respond to that. I'll just say one thing. Fully agree with you in terms of that humanitarian aid is not enough. Somehow the economy needs to get going, and the central bank problem needs to be resolved. I'll just say one thing. In my meetings the first time in May, and again in the second time in last week, I didn't particularly solicit from the civil society groups that I was meeting issues around fair distribution of humanitarian aid. But what I noticed was how many times the people, women and men, raised concerns that the aid was not getting to the people who needed it most. I think that needs to be addressed. Second thing is that the humanitarian country team has established a women's advisory group, and Mahbouba is a member of that. I think it would be interesting to ask Mahbouba actually how that is going. Are they taken seriously? Is their advice heeded? Is it true consultation with Afghan women as regards what aid is necessary, who it should be given to, how it should be monitored. I think there seems to be a lack of monitoring. And is this group really empowered? Just a couple of reflections on that. The second question, how did I find the situation compared to the first visit earlier this year? I think what I've said yesterday and then is that overall the trend isn't good, it's deteriorating. But what I also discovered, having now visited, I think, 5 provinces, is that it differs a bit according to where you go. Bulk and Panjshir are very different, for example. And it depends a little bit on local communities, local culture, sometimes even on the local administration, including the Taliban governors. So I think it's useful to look at the possibilities, not only at the national level, but perhaps even more so at the subnational level. A couple of provinces, for example, have got defense lawyer projects going. As we know, in some provinces, schools for girls are open. So I think it's useful to get beneath the surface to see where communities are able to open a bit more space. And it'll be different place by place. What I did find, though, on this trip was the increasing influence, power of the PVPV, Prevention of Vice and Promotion of Virtue, working very closely with the intelligence known as the GDI, that they are tightening the screws on people. And regarding women, I think we've seen, step by step, numerous edicts and decrees issued, but it's actually getting worse, not getting better. And final point, I think what I noticed this time was the increasing involvement of the Emir, the supreme leader, directly in governance, influencing directly provincial governors, and especially ulama shuras at the provincial level, rather than working through the cabinet. So I think there's a kind of a shift, a question there between as to where the power lies and how it's being exercised. And finally, we talk a lot about the hard power that is being exercised by the Taliban, the men with guns, but there's also soft power increasingly. The school curriculum, for example, and the way in which the media is being shut down or censored. So I think that exercise of soft power, which is designed to build the constituency, in my view, to be more supportive of the Taliban. I mean, from their point of view, maybe they are thinking that rather than fighting with guns, they want to reduce the need for that by having a more passive and quiescent population. So I think that needs to be looked at, and I noticed that a little bit more this time as well. Nina, great suggestions. I think that would be very interesting. I haven't heard the one about an all-women briefers at the Security Council. That's a great suggestion in my view. And in terms of a Security Council visit of all women, I haven't heard that before. I have heard suggestions for either an SG visit or a Security Council visit, and concerns about, including from NGOs, about giving, that adding to some kind of political recognition. But I think the all women visit is a very nice twist on that, and may well work. Yes, I speak to the GA and particularly to the Human Rights Council, but is there anything to stop me being invited to brief the Security Council? Yeah, I don't think there's a rule against special rapporteurs briefing the Security Council. So if we can get the president next year, one of the presidents, to invite me, I'd be happy to come back to New York and do that. Elsie, I think yours was there was another one after Nina. Do I think there's a way to hold the Taliban accountable. Perhaps I could combine that with Dulcie's question on why they gave me freedom of movement. I don't know.
Richard, let me just add one more question to that because it's just along the same point, and it is, sorry, question. It was about the Taliban also.
Yes, the last one.
Do you think that the Taliban leadership really care about your findings and concerns?
Yeah, well, I was going to answer that as well. So they didn't like my report, and they made clear that they didn't like my first report. There was a second issue, which is that I did share the report in draft with them and sought their comments, and they sent comments, 3 pages of it, which is interesting. I then had a problem, maybe I shouldn't say problem. I then had a complication at the UN because normally if a state sends comments on a draft report, a UN report, you can annex those comments. So I asked if I could annex the comments, and I was told no, because this is a de facto authority. They're not recognized in either the Security Council or the General Assembly, and therefore their comments could not be attached to my report. What I tried to do at the very last minute, because the report was finished, was add a couple of sentences, and I mentioned it when I spoke in the Human Rights Council. But I can understand their frustration that they made the effort to review it, send comments, and then I wasn't able to present those comments. The other thing that I'll mention is that when I went this time, they weren't happy with my report, but several of the ministers, including the Deputy Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister, Mutaki, Deputy Prime Minister Hanafi, there I have 3 Deputy Prime Ministers, the acting Deputy Prime Ministers, went through, they took time, they had prepared, and they went through the list of things that they felt they had achieved, including in delivering on human rights. I don't have my notebook with the list, but they mentioned narcotics, they mentioned a better treatment in prisons, they mentioned a bunch of things. So they felt the need to justify themselves, and they hoped that I would reflect in my next report what they feel they are achieving. So when it comes to accountability, this is, I guess, a soft form of accountability, but at least it's you know, my reports are pushing them to make them justify themselves. Maybe I should stop there around the time.
Thank you so much, and really excellent idea. But as I said, that unfortunately, I have to admit that there is no political will at the UN, because it's not matter of recognition. With all due respect to Richard, but because Assistant Secretary General was in Kabul last year, so it's not matter of recognition. But Secretary General himself, he was in Pakistan because of the flood. But unfortunately, even he didn't pay any attention to the refugees, women journalists, women judges, women police, a big number of women, they were in Pakistan. So they even didn't meet with them. And here also in New York, a couple of times we approached him in his office that if possible to meet, but we didn't heard back anything.
But who's invited as briefers solely up to the president for that month of the Security Council.
Mm-hmm.
So you can aim for a president. It does nothing to do with the SG.
Yeah.
It's left to the president each month who they invite as briefers.
Mm-hmm,
Right.
mm-hmm.
They can get shot down.
Yeah, and then of course we will continuing our advocacy in this regard. About accountability, as Mr. Richard mentioned, yes, there are lots of problems, unfortunately, but international community can, because we didn't hear anything from international community, especially those that they are inside the country. No one is talking about corruption. No one is talking about corruption. No one is talking about bribe. There are number of cases. For example, if I have $2,000 in my bank account, I'm not allowed to withdraw except $200 per month. So someone is asking me that please give 1,000 to me and then 1,000 to you, and then I will give the rest to you. So this is bribe. In terms of visa, passport, so we have to pay thousands of dollars to get a local passport. So these are the bribes that, oh yeah. And then the NGOs also, Taliban, they registered so many NGOs under their names of cousins and brothers and sisters, and then they are getting but because international communities, as I said, that they have leverage, they are not checking the background, that when the NGO established, to whom it belongs. So, and in the past, from president up to lower level, we were under lots of pressure. Everybody was coming and then asking corruption and corruption and corruption. But now no one is raising this issue of corruption, that there are lots of corruption. And imagine those people that they are surviving, they are dying for a piece of bread. They don't have money to pay for these things. On the documentation of atrocities, I think documentation of atrocities of human rights is not enough. These things should be addressed properly. Because with documentation, we will having all these reports, files and notes. But if there is no one to address these issues, then what's the point? Thank you.
Habiba.
Thank you. The question from Rubin, Mr. Rubin, unfortunately, he left. I think he was talking about the bank issue. Or who guarantees that if the bank problem can be resolved and all the asset will go to the people? No, it's not. I'm sure that it will not go to the people. It will go back to the soldier of the Taliban. This is the issue. So there is not accountability, as my friend said, and there is not transparency inside the country that who can control, and the mechanism, of course, Mahbouba John will share about that. If there will be a kind of mechanism that at least women or some other, beside the Taliban can be, observe that. The humanitarian aid is something that it's not distributing fairly and it's not balanced, and especially according to the report that we are getting from Afghanistan, inside Afghanistan, different provinces are getting different amount of aid. This is, for example, if someone can get in the south $400, in the north and Bamyan, they are getting $200. So this is quite different about the aid distribution. The question came that what action international community can take. I think still the leverage is there. And as I said, that this is our giant failure and we have to take a giant action. So this is good that we have to come together to have some proposal, but some idea. That's good that my sister Mahbouba John Saraj mentioned about that. But without the comprehensive action or a kind of comprehensive idea that come together with international community and Afghan people together, it will be not possible. The leverage is there, the recognition is the leverage, the money is leverage, and also international community can talk with the some neighboring or regional country that they have influence to Taliban. It can be possible, and to talk, to dialogue, and bring Taliban to accountability. Thank you. And what Security Council do, and Security Council, the fact-finding mission to Kabul, to Afghanistan is very important that Security Council do, and I appreciate both suggestions that you made. It's good. And some women were had presentation in the Security Council, but it's not enough. If we can take action, it will be nice. Thank you.
Mahbouba, we're going to give you the last word from Kabul.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Regarding the question that was asked, well, okay, let's go back. Some of first of all, for example, the accountability, the fact that, United Nations although I am in that committee, and I know Richard mentioned that, and it's true. We are a bunch of us women. We are, and this is the first time that we are a member of it. But the thing is that although it's open, although we know what it is being talked about and how it is done and all of that, but then at the end of the day, the actual work is in the hands of the people that they are there. They are actually doing it. For example, the distribution of goods and money and food. You know, to tell you the honest truth, I still don't know who has the control over this. This is not something that this committee that I'm a member of can do. This is something that United Nations should do. And how? By really looking into the new NGOs that they have been formed. Who are they? What are they? Who are the owners of it? And what is it exactly that they are doing? But then, don't forget, there is a lot of fear that this is not being done. Because a lot of the people that are involved in this, they don't want the world to know exactly who is running these organizations, because their lives will be in danger. That's another thing. So that's why that's not happening. A whole lot of money comes every year in Afghanistan, I mean, every week or every month or something. We don't really know where that money goes to tell you the honest truth. And then there's a lot of cash being given to the people. We don't even know who gets that cash. So that needs to be really clarified. And UN is again the one that can do it. And UNAMA can do it. They are the ones that they have the mandate. They are the ones that they have the power, because money and possibility of distribution of whatever goods there are, it's in their hands. So they can do it. And that's not being done. And that's not really right. As far as the work that Ruben mentioned for the young people, there's money in that country, but the money is not being used to create jobs. And there is an exodus from Afghanistan that is becoming beyond belief unbelievable. The exodus is for so many reasons. It's not only for the people because they're afraid of their lives. No, it's a whole lot of economy. It's a whole lot of life being in general difficult, and it's some maybe it's because their lives are in danger. So it's all three. But everybody's getting out. So how long are we going to have this? That the people are going to get out of Afghanistan? And then what? What are we going to do? Really? How are we going to, what is going to be happening? For example, for someone like me that wants to stay in Afghanistan, because I know there are so many people that can't move out of here, how am I going to work in Afghanistan? If everybody that knows something or has a knowledge disappears, because whoever is in power and has the money in there that will make the money move. And then people get salaries. People are not getting salaries. There are hundreds of these young people that they don't have any jobs. What am I supposed to do? My office cannot give them jobs. So what is happening here? I don't understand it. The corruption inside the UN, UNAMA, and everywhere around it. I'm not saying that UN and UNAMA are doing it. That's not my point. But there is so much corruption there. There is so much corruption. I cannot tell you. So that somebody has to really have a control over that. That is in the hands of the world that has given the money to them. They have to do something about this. Otherwise, the corruption is going to continue. The corruption is not only from the side of the Taliban. The corruption is from everywhere. Inside Afghanistan, in the government, and inside the UN system. So here we are. Suggestions: we have to create jobs for the young people to have work. Otherwise, we are going to lose whoever we have in Afghanistan as far as any brains are concerned. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Habiba, and thanks to all of you. We have to wrap up. I'm sorry, we are running out of time. I think we've raised more questions than we've answered for all of us, but I think we will have to keep thinking and talking and trying whatever we can think of. But I want to, again, make a special plea to all of the media to really just help us keep this or get this on the agenda. It's just disappeared, and it's such a disservice. You know, I think we heard about the special responsibility. Even regardless of that, I think we have to learn to multitask a little more. All of these crises are important. Let's not forget Afghanistan. It's really super important. So thanks to Richard Bennett, Asila Wardak, Habiba Sarabi, Mahbouba Siraj for joining us from Afghanistan. This videotape will be available online at the Roosevelt House website shortly, maybe tomorrow. And then the videos from Panjshir, there are several more videos. Those will all be put up on the website of the Women's Forum on Afghanistan, probably tomorrow. So thanks again to everyone, and be safe.